Thank you very much. I hope you can see my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes, all good, Prof. I can see your
Okay,
slides.
thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Wong. Also, thank you very much for inviting me for this very important issues that we discussed this morning. I don't have much time. I've only allocated 15 minutes for this presentation. I have a few slides to go, but I just want to skip some of the slides because it's been well presented by the previous prominent speakers. Okay, now my presentation is divided into certain subtopics. The overview, what is in the budget. I'm not going to go into what is in the budget. I think everybody knows already. And it follows by rural development in Sabah and Sarawak. That has also been highlighted by YB Senator Robert just now. Of course, the impact of COVID. I think everybody knows economic challenges and opportunities way forward, and I conclude my presentation in 15 minutes. Okay. All right. I'm going to skip this. What is in the budget? Everybody knows that the largest ever budget allocated in the history of Malaysia, about 322.5 billion. And it's mentioned that 2.7 billion has been allocated for rural infrastructure. And of course, lots of rural areas will be benefited from the water supply. But I'm going to discuss in this towards my presentation, to the end of my presentation later on. And then certain amount of budget for electricity supply, and also bantuan rumah. Okay, now if we look at Sabah in terms of areas, the Sabah and Sarawak combination together more than Semenanjung actually, 131,587 square kilometer. But of course, the populations are relatively small with that size, almost 6 million compared to Semenanjung, which is 32.6 million. But in terms of size, Sabah Sarawak combined together is more than the whole peninsula. And of course, Kalimantan, we have to also mention about Kalimantan because it is part of Borneo. Both Malaysia, all Malaysia, Semenanjung and Sabah Sarawak, Kalimantan is much bigger than in Malaysia, indeed. Okay, with 17 million, okay, half of the population of Malaysia. Very interesting. Okay, now you look at Sabah here. Also, Senator Robert Lau has also shown you this map. Okay, now in terms of parliamentary seat, okay, in terms of parliamentary seat, just selected few parliamentary seats from Sabah. The size of Kinabatangan is much larger than combination of Pahang, which has 14 member parliament, and Kinabatangan is only represented by Datuk Sri Bong Mokhtar alone, you know, and Lahadatu is much larger than Perlis, and Perlis has 4 member parliaments, and Datu is only 1 member parliament. And Pensiangan parliamentary constituency is bigger than Penang, Melaka, and Perlis. Pensiangan represented by 1 member parliament, Penang represented by 13 MPs, Melaka 6, Perlis 4. You can imagine how much allocation has been allocated to this parliamentary seat, you know, in Sabah. And of course, Sabah and Sarawak for the budget 2021, like I'm Sabahan, and I think most of the Sarawakian and the Sabahan also would like this budget to be focused to rural development, especially in Sabah and Sarawak. Not so much in the cities like Kuching and Kota Kinabalu. But if you move 10 kilometers away from Kota Kinabalu, you are actually in the underdeveloped nation, in the developed areas. So we want that, rural development has to be improved, because we are already, almost 60 years of independence. So the budget this time around, especially next year, emphasize on infrastructure development, expanding internet coverage and penetration. And it's become a national issue now. Students who are taking online lectures, they have to climb up trees to get the signals. This is not good. And recently, a few weeks ago, few students, also having problems when they confronted with the hanging bridge collapse, because on that hanging bridge, they can get, signals of internet. Of course, as been mentioned earlier, road, highways. Actually, we don't have highways in Sabah, Sarawak. We are expecting to have this Pan Borneo, okay, from stretching from Kuching all the way to Kudat and Tawau. But last week, I had a discussion with the pengarah of JKR Sabah, state JKR, mentioned about it will take another 15 years for this highway to be completed. So why the problem of the, allocation, the finance from Putrajaya? And some places cannot even have a clean and drinkable water in some areas in Sabah. I'm economist studying on poverty, and I've been all interior of Sabah. I've seen it myself how deplorable situation is in Sabah, and some places are very dark. They don't have electricity supply even. Yesterday we just came back from Caningau, and the road was, too bad. Still now, rainy days, it's very slippery. Of course, Tan Dr. Kamal Salim mentioned about improving educational facilities, about University 4.0. We're not even University 1.0 in Sabah. What more about primary schools or secondary schools? Health facilities, and then of course the rural in Sabah or in Sarawak, the high cost of living is very high. Just to get a small Maggi mee, it costs them 150 cents. Whereas in Kota Kinabalu, in the big cities, it's only a few cents, maybe 40, 50 cents. Why? Because of the logistic problem. I can see the healthcare facilities. The ratio of health clinics to the total population, as you can see, this is just a selected state. One health clinic in Sabah has to be responsible to 13,000 residents. Sarawak 1 to 11,000, compared to Pahang 1 to 5,000. These are very typical problems that we are facing here now. Now, transportation, I said, the inland transportation and connectivity. This is the crack of the problem. It will affect the agricultural sectors. Not only agriculture affected, tourism, education. Students have to walk by foot for 7 kilometers to reach the schools. They don't have enough desa, for example, or asrama, something like that, in some places in Sabah. So all this negatively affect the living standard of the rural community. This can be discussed further, The internet connection, oh man, this is another problem. We are way behind. Not only in rural areas. In my place, very close to University Malaysia Sabah, the connections are not stable. And we are now having these lectures online every day with our university students. So this is also another problem of concern. When talk about youth unemployment, you know, the job market in Sabah is so small. The job market are so small. There's not enough job created because investors are not coming to Sabah. One of the problem is the infrastructure. We don't have infrastructure like in Lembah Kelang or in Johor Bahru or in Penang, Bagan Serai, somewhere in Semenanjung. The electricity supply, the water supply are unstable. So it's kept, you know, the investors away from these two states. As a result, our graduates, they're moving out. They're moving out, you know, well, we are experiencing brain drain. All the good brain are coming out. If we
Prof, your volume. We cannot hear you. Your mic is off. Yeah, okay. Can you say something? No, we still can't hear you, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the technical issue that we are facing. We'll try to resolve this. Where's Eric?
Prof, so we're still fixing the problems, the audio problems. Can you wait for a second? So Prof, can you check again if you have muted? Oh, he cannot hear us as well. Yeah. So yeah.
can you
Guys, can.
okay. Now
Sorry, they cannot hear. Hang on.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That's an indication that the internet connectivity in Malaysia is really poor.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay. Can I continue? Can I continue now? Hello? Can I continue now, sir?
Yes, Prof. Yes.
Okay, now, okay, I continue with my presentation. We know that tourism industry is booming in Sabah. And it contribute second to our GDP. And I think Sarawak also the same. So very promising in sectors, tourism industries in Sabah and Sarawak. And our agriculture also contributes so much. And we are the largest contributing oil palm plantation to the nation GDP of Malaysia. Manufacturing, of course, we are now focusing on our downstream activities. Of course, because of the lack of infrastructure, the SMI is not attractive at this time. And then poverty rate, as mentioned also by previous speakers, Tan Sri, also Kamal mentioned about, also OIB Robert Lau also mentioned about the poverty rate. Sabah is one of the states recorded the highest poverty rate, and even now, at this time with the pandemic, I think the poverty rate is expected to go beyond 20%. This is very alarming and worrying. And of course, now, as I mentioned to you earlier, the labor force participations, okay, because of the small job market in Sabah, the unemployment rate is going to be very high in the future. I'm not going to go into the pandemic, but this is very general, issues of, what is going on right now, the impact of economic pandemic to the states. Okay, now the challenges, wage level in Sabah is small, very low. One of the contributing factor is that the low income in Sabah, even the minimum wage, normally the employers are able only to pay 800 ringgit. Otherwise, nobody would like to work in the plantation. So we know that 90% of our workers in plantations are foreigners. And there are very few high jobs in Sabah because we don't have public lease companies or multinational corporations in Sabah and Sarawak. And most of the major federal government GLCs, the HQ are not in Sabah, but most of them are in Putrajaya or in Kuala Lumpur. So this is a high pay job. Now, cost of living, as I said, is very high. Okay, higher than Kuala Lumpur. I think if you have been to Sabah for some time, you agree with me. I'm not going to discuss further on that. Talking about infrastructure, of course, our infrastructure are very poor. Very poor. Electricity supply, shortage, clean up, drinkable water, internet services has been mentioned to you just now. Our job market are small. Our graduates are moving out. Look at the students, and we're talking about transformation of education. In Sabah, the low quality of education because of, new teachers coming. They are untrained, but after they've been here for some times, they're moving out. So then the new teachers coming again. So this is what continuously happen in terms of education because we got low quality and poor facilities. Okay. And then I mentioned to you also the investment domestic. The only thing that are very attractive now is the Sipitang oil and gas terminal, Sogit oil and gas. We are coming up now. This is what we try to do. Of course, the potential is there. So because of the time constraint, we wrote a book, the economy of Sabah and Kalimantan. We wrote 2 books actually. 3 years ago, Sabah has the potential, and you can say as a conclusion to my presentation this morning, economic growth can be seen as necessary but not sufficient for economic development because of the lack of infrastructure. So we need a combination of capital and technological advances, and 2 of the most important sectors of economic growth. So with that, thank you very much. Sorry for the technical problem. You can see that this is what we're experiencing. The internet connections are not really stable in Kota Kinabalu. So thank you with that. Assalamualaikum and very good morning.